Hey guys, okay, next project. I should say that it's been a while since I uploaded a video because I've just completed another project. But for reasons which will become clear further down the line, that won't be getting uploaded for a couple of months, probably until the middle of August sometime. This one is inspired by Les Carpenter, who some of you will remember did that excellent modification to the Yakin MS-23B phono preamp, which I'm super pleased with, and it gets used all the time. This, as any of you guys know, if you're doing the retro hi-fi thing where you have separate cassette player, turntable, mini disc player, whatever, you need a selector box that will select whichever of the inputs and feed it to the amp. I have sort of temporarily used a mechanical device that I had for a long time, which is its basic functionality is okay, but you have to get up and push the buttons. The buttons are very stiff because they're very mechanical, and in fact when I push the buttons it tends to slide back and I have to pull it forward. And anyway, so Les has designed this wonderful thing which is infrared controlled, and it will select up to 5 inputs, and it will feed them out, which is important for me, into one of 2 amplifiers or 2 outputs. And since I have a separate headphone amp from the main amp, this is really cool having this function. It also has the facility to have any of these go to a sort of record out line, so that if I wanted to copy a vinyl onto a cassette, I could do that. I'm not sure that I ever want to do that, because the reason I set up the retro thing is so that I didn't have to go ripping any of my old music on cassette or vinyl onto digital or any other format. However, we shall see. So it also has a motorized volume control, controlled by the same infrared remote control. And so yeah, this is, on the face of it, very nice. However, the case, I would need a separate case, because this would the dimensions of this wouldn't really be appropriate for the way my setup is built. And as you guys know, I'm a big fan of analog VU meters, and so I thought, since we have a remotely controlled volume control here that lets you essentially normalize the volume from any of the inputs before it goes to the amp, you can just leave the amp at the same volume all the time. A couple of analog VU meters would fit right into this type of gadget, and so this is the inspiration for it. Now, as usual, Les does a fantastic job of documentation, the whole theory of how the circuit works, and why he's done what he's done and all that sort of stuff. Component lists, circuit diagrams, you name it, it's all in here. Even the how to do the tag strip for building it. So it's very cool. One of the things he mentioned early on is that the infrared transmitter and receiver setup that he's gone with doesn't latch, and so he's done a lot of, if you like, external circuitry to achieve the latching. And so one of the things I thought I might look at first, so this is going to be lots of experimenting, so if you like, this is the inspiration, and so hopefully it'll be very close to this, but not exactly the same. One of the things I thought I'd first have a look at is maybe if there was other infrared transmitter receiver things that we could have a look at that might latch. I don't know, we'll find out, because invariably none of these things say whether they do or they don't. So first thing I'm going to try by way of a shortcut is I found these Velleman kits, and it's funny, all my years I've never bought or built a Velleman kit, so it's leaving it a bit late, but here we go. So this is a 15 channel transmitter, and here is the receiver that will go with it. There is also a relay card that you can then connect up to this. But before we go any further, I'm gonna put these two together, hook them up, and see when you select a channel, does the LED latch, or are they just momentary? When you push the button, the LED comes on, and when you let the button go, the light goes out again. In which case it'll be the same as what Les has in his setup. So, wiring up a couple of basic kits like this for you guys is going to be like watching paint dry, so I'm not going to bore you with all of that. I will put these two things together and we'll come back to it when I am ready to do the test and see whether or not this will be part of the ongoing project, or whether this will be maybe put aside for something else. Right, soldering iron at the ready. Okay, transmitter. So far so good, on with the receiver. Okay, so here it is built up, and we seem to be in action here. Enough to show in the camera. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. But as you can see, they're momentary, so when I hold the key down, the light, it selects the channel, then when I let it go, it goes again. It goes up to 8, and then you have the shift key on the control here. Shift and 1 is 9, shift and 2 is 10, and it cancels the shift each time. Okay, so so it works in that basic mode. Now it says, and I just stuck a temporary 9-volt battery on here to check it out. And there's a room here for a whole lot of diodes, and it basically says if you wanted to toggle, so press on, press off, you stick a diode in here for whichever channel. And so I think I'll put one in for at least the first 5 channels, because I'll have at least 5 devices as inputs, and so we'll see how that goes. Okay, so here we are. I've got diodes in the first 5 channels here, and so if I press 1, it'll stay on. If I press 1 again, it'll go off. If I press 2, but I can select multiples, 3, 4, 5, but of course 6 is just momentary, and so when I press 2 again, it goes off. 3, 4, and 5. Not really what I want either, because that means you could have multiple inputs feeding to the amp, which I don't really want to do. However, there is another mode. It has a number of modes this thing can work in, and the mode it's in now is what they call 15 independent outputs, and so they can all be selected and and selected singularly or in combination. There's another one which is called 15 rotary outputs, which I presume means it's like a single pole 15 way wafer switch. So when you rotate it, you'll have one at a time. So I think I'll configure it so we can do that, and then see what that looks like. Okay, here we are. With it set as a rotary switch, so press 1, channel 1 comes on and stays on, which is important. Press 2, 1 goes out and 2 comes on. 3 goes out, 4 comes on, and 4 goes out and 5 comes on. So that's really what I'm looking for. Okay, the other option in here, it says, is you can have, so we can have 15 independent outputs. We can have 15 rotary, which is the way it's set up now, or we can have 7 independent outs and 8 rotaries, or 7 rotaries plus 8 rotaries, which I assume is sort of like a double pole rotary switch. And just a little curiosity. Usually one way of checking if an infrared transmitter is working is your normal video camera can pick it up. So when I put this one all together and I pointed it at my camera here and press it, there's nothing from the infrared LED. So I took it apart, I hooked everything up, I even put a scope on the little transistor and everything seemed to be working just fine. So I went and got another infrared remote and pointed it at this particular camera, and it equally doesn't show anything. So not all cameras now, it seems, will pick up an infrared LED output. Okay, having messed some more with the programming of this PIC and the diode combinations and so on, I think I've come up with as close. It's not exactly what I'd like, but it's as close as I think I'm going to get. So the way this would work is, in this case, button 1 would be, let's say, volume up. So it's just momentary. Button 2 would be volume down. And so button 4 would be for like 1 amp out, but it's on off, and button 5 would be for amp 2 out and off. So you can have that's the, if you like, the weakness in the setup here. You can have both amps connected or no amp connected, but let's say we have amp 2 connected, and then for selecting the channels we have shift 1, shift 2, shift 3, shift 4, shift 5. So there we go. So I have volume up, volume down, amp out A, amp out B, and then I have the 5 input selectors. So, and I've discovered that shift 8 cancels everything. I think that's as close as I'm going to get it, so we'll see how that works when I get the relay board and we take it to the next level. So I've ordered up the motorized volume control, so hopefully that's on its way. So some more eBay bits and pieces arriving for this little audio selector project. And as I think I mentioned in the beginning, one of the mods I wanted to do, or one of the things I wanted to incorporate into mine, was some analog VU meters. So this is a little kit I found on eBay, which is a pair of VU meters, a driver board, and a little miniature transformer to power it off the AC mains. So this will take 115 or, oops, this we're out, 115 or 220 in. And then it'll have a 6, 9 or 12 volt secondary out, and so the 12 volts will go in here, and then you feed the audio one channel in here, one channel in here, then you get the outputs which then go off to these connectors here on the VU meters, and then there's a negative and a positive for connecting the backlight. I didn't immediately see what voltage. Hopefully it's exactly the same voltage that this thing generates you need for the backlights. Yeah, probably the only thing I wasn't too keen on is it's a dark background VU lit from behind with blue illuminations, but we'll check it all out and make sure everything works okay first. But what I might do down the road is replace the dark backing with a light colored backing. Because yeah, it's as I say, it's not my preferred color scheme. Okay, so that's that. We're just going to mock it up and see if it works, and if it is, we'll put it back in the box and wait until the design of this thing is far more evolved and I know exactly how it's going to fit in, because obviously I'm hoping that I can have a single power supply for everything in here. And obviously this little transformer is not going to be up to driving everything. So, but it's a neat little transformer. I'm sure I will find many uses for it if I don't use it permanently in this setup here. Right. So I think rather than this, I'll just go with the old 9-volt battery in here. Then I'll wire up an audio source to this in some way or another, and then we'll connect up some sort of media player to it, and we'll see what happens with these guys here. Okay, so I think to keep life simple, we'll try to backlight first. So I've just hooked up a 9-volt battery, and we'll hook it up negative and positive. So yeah, they look pretty. So we will reserve judgment on what to do here. I guess a lot depends on the case that the whole thing goes in, because if the case is a dark case, then maybe this is a better way to go. Okay, so that works. That's that. Let's see if it responds to audio. Okay, it looks like we have success. All I've got is the MP3 player going into the input section, 9-volt battery to drive the thing, and then the out to each VU meter, and it's playing some classic Yes and no risk of any copyright strike at the moment. Okay, so we have working VU meters, backlight works, everything seems to be okay. Put it all back in the box and wait until it is needed. Cool. So, by way of building up the bits and pieces, I also got a bunch of good quality phono connectors for all the inputs and a couple of outputs. Some perf board and some prototyping board for when it comes to hooking up relays and audio signaling and all that sort of stuff. Got some buffer ICs as well in case we want to go messing with signal path and stuff. I did order up a whole bunch of stereo screened cable. Unfortunately, what came, I wasn't watching, so my fault. Is the cable is nicely screened, but the individual cores inside are not. And so I can either use it as a single core screen so that I can have separate, keep the earthing all separate, or go order up some other sort of cable. We'll see.